Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon back for another video on Raid Shadow Legends, and hopefully you've been following along on the journey on this channel because we have another new player guide video for you here today, and I want to talk to you all about what the best early and mid-game artifact sets are in Raid Shadow Legends. There are a lot of different artifact sets. I do want to kind of cover some of the major ones that you should be considering, especially as you're going through the early game, and farming away at the campaigns and going through that and doing some of the dungeon bosses, and you're wondering which of these sets are actually good and worthwhile, and which of them maybe you should sell off because you don't really need them that much. So we're going to be covering that here today. But before we get started, if you're new to Raid Shadow Legends and you haven't downloaded the game yet, if you haven't started an account, or if you're a returning player that wants to start a new account, make sure that you download using the QR link in the top right side of the screen, because if you do, you are going to get yourself some free stuff, including an epic Rector Drath, who is really good alongside other resources, including a double XP boost, some silver, and an epic skill tome. But also at level 15, you will get yourself an epic Ugo as well, who is one of the best epic characters in Raid Shadow Legends, and I'm using them at the top of my roster as well, so don't delay on that one. Also, I do want to mention that if you go to the promo code section here, now I'm on the PC client here, but if you go here and you type in Monkey King, you will be able to get yourself a free legendary Wukong, Sun Wukong as well. Those characters are really amazing and will help your early gameplay. You can see them here at the top of my roster: Sun Wukong, Rector Drath, and Ugo. But anyways, if you're ready to go and learn about all things artifact sets, then let's boil this down. Okay, so it can be a little bit overwhelming, right? And I just want to kind of share with you guys, some of the sets that I'm using on my top characters. Now, specifically my damage characters, that's kind of where I care about the most. Although, I've only been playing for like just over a week. So bear with me, I don't have all the crazy gear that some of the other content creators are going to have. But these are the ones that I've been working with. Now, for Sun Wukong, I've been giving him a brutal artifact set, or sorry, savage, that's what I meant to say, savage artifact set here, which you can see with the 4-piece bonus ignores 25% of enemy defense. But if you look at my Kale, for example, I'm using a 4-piece lifesteal set. And that's because Kale is one of my largest wave clearers that I use to farm nodes, to grind up some of my characters, my kind of my food, so to speak, which is the characters that you kind of grind up, level up, and rank up to feed your other characters. We'll talk about that in another video as well. But having your wave clearers in the lifesteal set early on can be really good. You also get, I'm pretty sure, like a free 4/5-star lifesteal set when you start the game as well, because that's where I got this for Kale and why I equipped him with that. And this helps dramatically as well. Also for my Alice the Wanderer, I've decided to go with a speed set here, but also a 2-piece cruel set, which gives you attack and a little bit of armor defense ignoring. Now, I want to kind of go through, we can go through my artifact storage here, and we can go through the different artifact sets. There's a lot, honestly, and there is many that I don't have myself because I am not clearing the dungeons where those drop. But just to go off of the ones that I do have, and these are kind of the main major ones, I'll also show you in the campaign as well where you can get them. But the very early ones here, life, HP 15%, this is very basic. Like, this is stuff you're going to get at the very beginning of the game. It's not terrible, but honestly, it's one of those things where if you don't have anything better, that's what you're going to use. And that's kind of with the offense as well with this set here. Again, for your damage characters, like, if this is all you got, then you'll use that. Some things that I do want to point out is there's a couple of main stats that you're going to get on some of your gear that's really important. Namely, the attack percentage on gloves, body, and boots. These can make a pretty significant difference, and why my Alice is stacking that up. But there's also other gear stuff, including a crit rate gloves. These are really important as well too. So if you get your hands on some of these, especially at a higher star, you might want to keep that on in your storage here. But by and large, these are very basic sets. The HP 15%, attack 15%, and you're going to get this every time you equip 2 pieces of the gear set. So this could stack up to 3 times, so you could equip the full 6-piece and you'll get attack 45%. But by and large, it's a very basic bonus. Same with some of the other ones like defense, just defense 15%. But what's actually really, really important is the speed set. And this is why my Alice actually runs the speed set, because speed is really good. It's a lot better to have speed than I would say some of the other stats. And this is a turn-based game. And whether you're playing through in PvP and arena or in battle, if your character goes before their character, that often makes a pretty significant difference in battle. And you can see I farmed a lot of the speed artifact set. This is mostly because I farm on this level right now. We'll talk about that when we get there in the second half of the video. But this is a very good set. Honestly, I would say it's in the probably top 10 of artifact sets that you would want to consider. This is also very early game friendly as well, because you can get this, in the campaigns. So this is pretty easy stuff that you can farm, and it's really good. Getting a higher speed means you go first. It's really important in a turn-based game, so I can't stress this one enough. Other ones are kind of basic too. The critical hit rate one, critical damage. Again, not that they're bad, and critical hit is pretty important for your damage-based characters, but it's a lot easier to get crit rate from just your gear, right? And so, for example, not this one, but my Kale, you can see here that I have like 50% on just the gloves. It is level 16, but it's a lot, right? Which you're only getting 12% off of the bonus. So, I'm getting like a 6-piece bonus on just this one piece alone. So that makes a pretty big difference. Crit damage as well, pretty easy to find on other gear pieces or substats. Accuracy, this is something that I kind of want to point out at, and I'm going to use Ugo to represent this. Ugo has a lot of debuffs. And so you do need an accuracy rating in order to land your debuffs. So that'll be your skills, like Maelstrom Rack for Ugo, which has a decreased defense down and a block buffs debuff as well. And in order to land this on bosses specifically, like it's less so in farming in campaign, but when it comes to actual dungeon bosses, you do need to have a decent amount of accuracy. And normally what that's considered is to be taking the difficulty level of the boss dungeon and multiply it by 10. So my goal lately for the content that I'm running has been an accuracy goal of about 100 for any characters that actually have debuffs. Now this will go up higher if you're doing higher difficulties and you're like, closer to end game. But for early game content, somewhere between 70 and 100 accuracy will help a lot. And you can see that I have 114. I'm not actually using any accuracy pieces. What I have been trying to do is just getting this through other means. I don't know, where do I actually have it? I think I get 19 from this. The perception set. We didn't quite get there. Yes, this is actually a better version than the accuracy set because it gives you I'm stupid. This is accuracy 40 and speed 5%. So this is like a better version of the accuracy set. But early on, if you need to obtain the accuracy, it's okay to use sets like this. Resistance, I haven't found a good use for this, but I'm sure I'm not quite there yet. I don't feel that alone is really worth it as a set. Lifesteal, we covered. This is a pretty good one and one that's worth considering, mainly for your active damage wave clears when you're farming. I would say this is the most important when it comes to having a character that kind of farms well for you. And for me, that's going to be Kale because he's got the Lifesteal set. Some of these other ones I don't really like because they're 4-set bonuses. Fury, Daze, Cursed, Frost. There's so many of these ones with 4 sets, and I don't really like it because it forces you to, have 4 sets, 4 pieces of it, and you can only get 1 2-set bonus on top of that. So it has to be really, really good. And unfortunately, I just don't feel a lot of these are. So I'm keeping them in my storage, but I'm just kind of looking at them just to kind of have an example of the items in case I do videos on that and talk about it, like this one. Some of them have some value, but like Savage is a pretty good 4-set bonus. I would use these if you do have the items available to you. I believe also there is a login calendar that gets you a 6-piece Savage set and different pieces for that for you to use. And so I would do that. Destroy, Toxic, Provoke, not really that good. Retaliate, I heard has some value in Arena. But outside of Arena, I don't think this is worth using in PvE. Avenging, Stalwart, it sounds okay. 30% damage from enemy AoE attacks. Maybe this is something that you would use on like your healer characters to make sure that they survive. Something like that in boss dungeons. A lot of boss battles do have AoE attacks. So that might be a thing there that I'm just not, I don't have a lot of this, right? So some of these sets are really hard to get. It's not as easy in the early game. Curing, again, nothing that great. Cruel, this is a pretty decent one, and this is a great upgrade over just the standard attack set, right? So instead of attack 15%, now you're getting ignore 5% of enemy defense. So if you have these available to you, I would use these. Immortal, Divine Life, Divine Speed, these are, again, more difficult ones to get. They are upgrades over just the basic life set, though. So if you do have that available, and the resilience set, which you will get later on for using the Forge at level 30 and above, you can actually make this kind of stuff from the Faction Wars crypts. This is obviously a better version than the initial HP ones as well. Perception is one of my favorite ones, though. This is accuracy 40 and speed 5%. Both great stats, especially for debuffers or anyone that needs to land a debuff. A great set if you can find a good piece to use in terms of your main stats. And what main stats that you want to use is really going to depend on the character. Again, if you're an attack-based character, you're going to want to make sure that your crit rate is almost as high, close to 100% as possible, while maintaining attack. So you're focusing on attack and crit rate and things like that, depending on the kits of the character. And then if you're a healer character, you typically want HP, but if they do have some debuffs on them, you'll want a little bit of accuracy as well. So do keep that in mind too. So I do want to kind of like pivot over really quick to the campaign, because I want to show you the different levels that you can do the campaigns and where you get them. So this one, chapter 1, life, I wouldn't really farm this. Chapter 2, offense, wouldn't do that. The first thing that I would consider maybe would be chapter 5. And that is accuracy. If you need a little bit of accuracy for your debuff characters in the early game, this is actually pretty decent to farm. Making sure that you have a reasonable amount of accuracy on your debuffer characters. Obviously, when you move into the perception set, when you're able to craft some of that, that's better replacement than this one. And then, of course, the speed set, which you can find on chapter 6 here. And I do actually farm this a fair bit. Right now, when it comes to farming, I do actually do this on hard because I don't have a level 60 farmer yet to be able to do the brutal version. I have cleared this, and I can do this with 2 characters, with 2 of my damage characters like Kale and Alice. But if I just want to farm and level up my other characters to use one of my wave clearers, then I would have to do hard mode because I just don't have the power yet to be able to farm brutal mode. But this is a pretty good place to be able to farm some speed gear on the various levels here. So I do recommend chapter 6. You can also get chapter 8 for the lifesteal. Again, if you're needing to farm up a set to do that, if you need more beyond what you get through the login calendars and things like that, then I would definitely recommend the lifesteal set as well. The rest of them, I don't think you really need to do that. So I would focus on chapter 8, chapter 6, and chapter 5 in the very early term if you need some accuracy on that. Those are the 3 campaigns that I would focus on. But besides that, there's also, and I should have just gone to the boss dungeons, that there different boss dungeons drop different sets. Now, some of them are harder than others. Ice Golem's Peak, in my opinion, is harder than Dragon's Lair. So I'm going to start with Dragon's Lair and take a look at some of the artifact sets that are available here. And to be honest, in my opinion, the best ones here are going to be your lifesteal, your speed, and your accuracy. But honestly, accuracy is quite replaceable once you get perception. So there's not a ton of good ones in there, but it's good enough that if there's a reason or an event for you to farm the Fire Dragon's Lair, then it might be worth doing. Ice Golem's Peak, again, has a lot of ones that I don't really need too much about. So I try to avoid this where possible because I don't personally think you need a ton of these sets unless there's a reason to farm that. But Fire Knight's Castle does have quite a few other ones, including the stun set, which we didn't get to talk about. So a 4 set, 18% chance to place a stun debuff for 1 turn. This is really good for some of your wave clearers as well, but this is a pretty advanced set. And then, of course, you do get the Savage set from Fire Knight's Castle as well. We'll talk about in another video about specific guides on how to clear these a little bit easier in the early game. But the Savage set does come from this, which is quite nice. Some of these other ones, again, a lot of 4 set bonuses, which I'm not a big fan of. And as far as the ones that are available on the 2 sets, are not really that great either. So you're going to be doing a lot of Fire Knight's Castle for Savage drops. The other ones is very hit or miss, right? And this doesn't necessarily have to do with your artifact sets. A lot of these are accessories. Spider's Den is an accessory-based one, which we'll cover in a separate video as well. So believe it or not, there's not a ton of different sets that there's a lot, and it's overwhelming to actually think that, maybe there's value in all these sets. But there largely isn't. And I kind of want to end here at the Forge, because the Forge does have, you'll activate this at level 30, which you'll get a lot of these resources through Faction Wars, through the various faction crypts, and you'll be able to get some of the items that you need to craft some of these sets. And some of the better ones, in my opinion, especially ones that are available early on, is going to be your Resilience, which I showed off earlier on, in the Perception. These two are some of my favorite ones. Specifically, Perception is really good. The others, some other good ones too, like Fatal Set. But I haven't got to Doom Tower, which is account level 40. I'm almost there in order to farm the resources for some of these. So I don't have that yet. But if you are level 40 plus and you do have Doom Tower, Fatal is a pretty good set. Again, it's a bump over the regular attack set that you don't really need. So it's better to use some of these better ones than just the base attack one. And there's some pretty other decent ones, but I would say those are probably the best one there. Also, the Slayer set, I do like these variable sets. Basically, it has up to 9 items, and depending on how many you have, it gives you more bonuses. So you can see just above my head here that it's crit rate and crit damage based, and more speed as well, depending on how many you have. There's also one called Pinpoint, which is an accuracy and speed based one, I believe, as well, which is pretty good, and an increase over the Perception set. So do keep those in mind as well. So that's just covering a base overview of the artifact sets. And I just want to point out, if you haven't downloaded the game yet, make sure that you do, using the QR code in the top right hand of the screen, or in the description down below. There's going to be a link that you can use too. Either or will work, and that'll get you some freebies as well, including a free epic Rector draft that I showed earlier on. And at account level 15, you will get Ugo 2, one of the best epics in the game. Don't forget to also use that promo code Monkey King if you want yourself a free Sun Wukong. So that's going to be the end of the video here, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments down below what you think as well. And if there's any subjects that you want covered here, especially in the early game where my account is at, then let me know, and I'll be able to cover that as well as we go along on the channel here. But otherwise, until next time, everybody, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.